We have quite the emotional story for you about a man who left Sicily with his family when he was 11 years old. He went to Lawrence, Massachusetts, went to cooking school, became Crispele King and also Rice Ball King. And over the years, the family kept that family home so that the siblings could return. Well, after 90 years, the family has decided to sell the house in Viagrande. And we talked to Peter Messina on one of his last nights in the very house where he was born. Quite a story.
This is very compelling in my view. Frankly, after witnessing Peter and his family and the angst that they felt, I can understand what it must have felt like for Sicilians to leave their ancestral home here, to leave their home here and go to the New World. This is really a tremendous piece.
So what are you thinking of the last few nights in your home?
It's tough. It's tough.
We love you, Peter.
You know, it's... How many people can say that they lived and slept when they came over here in the same bed that they were born in? Supposedly, I mean, I'm 78. They could be telling me a lie. It's the same bed. I hope it's not the same mattress or sheets.
Oh, we love you, Peter.
And usually in January, I come to see the feast of St. Mauro. And of course, when my mother and father were alive, it was a good reason to come and visit them. And the house was bought in 1934, around 1934. The problem is, it wasn't a problem. As we got older, it was time to get rid of the house because we didn't want it up to my sibling to take care of it, especially between the two countries. You got to understand, once somebody died, the sibling automatically come in. And it's not because we have a problem with sibling, it's just that there's a lot of paperwork. And we didn't want all that paperwork, so we decided to sell the house. Myself, I felt bad because I'm the one that comes here at least 2-3 times a year. As a matter of fact, I sleep in the same room that I was born in, but it was time to sell. That doesn't mean I'm not going to come back here, but I was 9-10 years old. I used to have the fancy for his daughter. The only problem, every time he saw me, he gave me a slap or hit me over the head. And then, of course, I left to the United States.
How old were you when you left to the United States?
I was 11 years old. And now I know still where she lives. But I haven't seen her in, I would say, maybe 67 years. I don't even know what she looks like.
Peter, tell me about some of your memories growing up here in Sicily.
It was right after the war, so it wasn't great times, but it wasn't bad times. I mean, we weren't this happy. We lived off the streets, and as far as playing, we had, very, very no toys or anything like that. So we either Chapedi is one of the, we sort of throw rocks, the one that gets it close to, a point. And then the feast was the big time because in those days, a fera, there was no supermarkets. So there was no place that you get clothes. Most of the clothes came from the United States, and what we would do is unstitch and stitch. The Sicilian invented the quilt. Most people don't know that because we had so many patches in our clothes, and during the winter we never get cold because you probably talk about three thick. The material would be 3 thick of all the holes and patching that we would have, And it was great. It was happy time, you know. There wasn't really sad time. And then, of course, we would look forward, like, we wouldn't have ice cream, but during the summer they come out with ice blocks. They would have a plane, they would shave it, and then just put some coloring sweets, and it was fine. It was a great time. That's Oscar.
So, Peter, what types of foods did you grow up in
Well,
here in Sicily?
Most of it, there was very, very little meat. Most of it was either chickpeas, fava beans, lentil. We had a lot of greens. And then, of course, the greens, they would go in the woods, and they would forage. They would get greens that you can eat. You know what I mean? So we never starved. You know, we just boil them, put a little bit of olive oil, and then of course they would bake. There was no really bakery. Everybody made bread. Like every family made bread, and they made bread for themselves, also for sometimes the neighbors. And of course the bread was made on Saturday. By Friday the bread would get hard, so they would make some sort of a soup or something to put the bread in. Now over here, my aunt used to live over here. That was her house, and of course, at one time this was the police station, but it's no longer. The house many years ago, I would come over here. Of course, the door would be nice and green, and there's the new tenants. The door will be nice and green, and also in the piazza there'll be all kind. My mother will have all kind of plants, flowers and stuff. Let me get a place to park. The house is so old that they didn't to sell it. We had to get an engineer. Didn't have any paperwork. Of course, there was an addition added, and not until I think it was 1980s that the government required to bring the house on regular. My father never did, so he came up to us. So we had to get an engineer, electrician, a plumber. It's like building a new house. The house meant a lot too, because I remember as a kid, I can remember the bullet holes from World War II. Plus, we have a courtyard, and we have a camellia. Camellia is like a rose, and that's been there. It's as old as the house. And at one time, of course, we were fortunate. The house had 2 wells until the 40s. Then they put inside plumbing, which that was a big thing. Of course, the house is so old that when the early pictures of this area, the house was still standing, and the church didn't have the cupola, the top part of it, with a bell there. They didn't have the bell tower.
Oh, this camellia is beautiful.
They used to bring the horses inside. Did you know that?
You told me.
Yeah, and
All of this was once yours.
that was the family.
The
It
family's.
wasn't mine.
This is such a beautiful plant.
In a way, you know, it's sad, but in a way, you have to continue on. You can't leave that to, you know, either my wife or the kids to be taken care of. But we'll come back here, and
How was selling the house? How difficult was it to sell the house?
no, actually,
Well, you had to bring everything to code first.
we had to bring everything to code. The only problem is, because we're Americans, they thought we were wounded animals we wanted to sell. So, of course, when you get a wounded animal, you get the jackals and all the but we didn't have to sell. It wasn't a financial thing. I mean, it was just that, you know, and the other thing.
In terms of paperwork and logistics and attorneys and so forth.
It's of course, as you know, in Italy, things the notary does all the paperwork. The lawyer just and then of course they don't give you the money until the house gets registered, and then of course it's very hard to change the gas, the electrical. They have to get permit. It's not like
It's not
on
an
and
easy
off.
thing.
It's not an easy. And in the United States, anytime you want to get the water turned on, you don't have to pay a fee for the meter to be installed. They just do it. And it's not that it's bad, but I'm not used to that kind of stuff.
Bureaucracy.
We had a good real estate fellow named Giovanni Sapienza, which I met him in the United States, and he was very, very, very good. And of course, he found the tenant. The woman, when she came in, she says she sat by because the house is right in the middle of the square of the town. The house, I think, was built before the town, and the woman sat there and said, "This is where I want to get old."
How did that make you feel?
Made me feel good. That was a theater, inside theater, for many years. And the projection booth was right here. And then next to it was an outside theater during the summer. Of course, they had the seats outside. It wasn't a drive-in theater.
Yeah.
And of course, they used the back of the church for the screen for the movie. That's the symbol, the eagle of the town. They used to sell wine over here. And not only they used to sell wine, they used to have a reef. Whenever you see a reef, right, that means they had wine for sale. A lot of people would make extra wine. Of course, they have the same barrel. Put a reef. There was a donkey. This guy was an alcoholic, and the donkey knew where to stop because he knew wherever he saw the reef, he would stop. The owner would get out. Of course, when the owner would get out, would put the feed bag to the donkey. So the donkey knew every time he saw the reef, he'd get fed. And of course, this guy, they had a nickname for everybody, right? This guy, they used to call him Turifungi because the way his mouth used to be shaped. And he was a mechanic. He was one of the earliest mechanics in Viagrande, and he just died 2 years ago. As a matter of fact, the Vada, which is the float where they put the saints in Viagrande, right? He's the one that built it. And feed him the good things. All right, brother?
So many memories must have been created in that house, but of course it will stay with the Messina family for a long time. But of course they'll keep coming back. Peter's already coming in June, and his brother, I'm sure, will come. But it was quite an emotional day spending it with Peter.
The thing that got me, the real tearjerker in this whole piece, was taking a look at that camellia tree that had been planted in his house, because it's a personal thing for me, because my grandmother, before she moved from Tre Castagni back to the United States for the first time at the beginning of the 20th century, did the same thing, planted a camellia tree in memory. And when my mother came there 80 years later, it had bloomed. It was huge.
Beautiful.
So believe me when I tell you, it knocked me out. That's all I want to say about that.
All right, now let's go to Cafe Urna.
Today I'm in a very special place. I'm in Cafe Urna in Viagrande. It's one of the best bars and pastry shops around. But the historical significance of this place just blows me away. Because where I'm sitting right now during the Second World War, used to be a military hospital. Number one, for the Nazis, when they were here, because they occupied this area. This area was a very heavily fascist area, and when the Nazis came in, this is where they were. But later on, when the British kicked them out, it became a British field hospital. And as you look around in these little place where the tables are sitting and people are eating pizza on the weekends, you could almost visualize on each wall where the beds were. You could almost see where the nurses were taking care of the wounded, whether they were the Germans or whether they were the British. And it blows me away that there's no sign or anything about the historical significance of this particular place. And by the way, Esther and I, in all our travels, we find this time and time again. When we were out in the West Coast, one of the most significant battles in the history of the Western civilization took place right outside of Campo Felice di Vercella, and there was no sign there. Anyways, that's what I wanted to say.
Alfred was talking about the Temple of Victory in Himera, right outside of Termini Imeresi. The other place is Crispele. September 8, 1943, the armistice was signed in this little town outside of Abla, and no one knows about it. It's not written, this is where the armistice was signed. All right, that's it for that. So I want to show you guys this. This is how tea is served here in Sicily. Isn't this the most adorable teapot? So what happens is the tea is in there, and then what you do is you just pour it into this cup.
That is so cool.
Now I want to show you Alfred's coffee, because he gets the Americano. Look at how beautiful this cup is. And as I was talking, our dear friend Peter Messina came in.
Pietro.
Saluta tutti.
Well, I tell you the truth.
Chiara. There it is.
The only thing
Due,
I prefer the old.
due e due.
Well, no, I like the old because it's once you take that out, it's like the Coliseum.
Nelson Mariano.
Yeah.
Michele, 200
250 grammi di chiacchiere.
e poco poco.
Poco poco.
Here at Orna to check out some of the sweets they have, very seasonal. That's the uvetta de San Agatha. It's made out of marzipan, perfect for the festival of San Agatha. Of course, this and the minuzi de San Agatha are typical sweets. And over here we have the chiacchiara.
Well, in Sicilian we call these guanti. Actually, growing up in the States, guandi.
That's gloves.
These are for
Carnevale.
Carnivale. Look at that. Those are even pistachio flavored. You don't see those.
You know what chiacchiara means? To gossip. To chit-chat. Chiacchiara. And these are typical also for Festivale. So everything is falling on the same weekend here. Now look at the display of cassata cakes and strawberry cream. Beautiful. There it is, chiacchiara or guandi in Sicilian. It was interesting to note, Peter told us that this dough that they use to make the chiacchiara is actually the same dough that's used to make the cannolo. Isn't that interesting? And by the way, chiacchiara means chit-chat, chit-chat. The other interesting thing that Al said to me was, oh, I wish these were around all year long. And I said, well, wait a sec, it's about tradition. I love it that they're only here during Carnevale till about Easter, then they're gone. Then you have a whole year to look forward to it. Pandora and Panettone, they're not here year round. And guess what? You look forward to Christmas and Easter to have them. It's all about tradition.
Well, you know, Esther, back in the States, our Sicilian dialect, we used to pronounce them guandi. But here in Italian, they pronounce them guanti with the T, all right? And we had plain, like you had covered with confectionery sugar, you had covered with cinnamon, but over here at Urna, I saw them covered with white chocolate. I saw them covered with
tasted.
dark chocolate.
You tasted.
I saw them covered with pistachio cream. Flat out the best guandis I ever had. And I really wish my brother was here, because my brother...
He told me. He's jealous.
He was a guandiaholic, that guy.
He's jealous, all right. Do you have traditions that you enjoy? Are there things that you look forward to during the year? Leave us a comment. Let us know. February 3rd to 5th is the Festival of San Agatha in Catania, the biggest festival here in Sicily, and the third largest religious festival in the world, attracting about 1 million people. Imagine that, 1 million people. I got a chance to go to opening ceremonies in downtown Catania, and here's a little bit of a preview, and we'll have much more, of course, on a future episode of You, Me, and Sicily. If you are enjoying this content, please consider hitting the like, sharing it with a friend, and what else?
Being a member of our community. For a cup of coffee a month, $1.99 a month. It really helps us to put out more content with our community members. So please, the button's right there. And there is another thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
The Sicilian project. We're off to the races with our classes, but Esther worked all through the night to put on our store right in front of you 5 items, t-shirts and hoodies and aprons and so forth, with the Sicilian project logo, in addition to our You, Me, and Sicily stuff. So you want to help out and support what we're doing over here? Buy a shirt, wear it proudly. That's what I wanted to say.
No, seriously, there's some great items in there. I put them together for you to enjoy. You, Me, and Sicily and the Sicilian Project. And if there's an item that you would like to see in the shop, drop me a note and I'll make sure that we put it there. Okay? And thank you for spending this little time with us. And we'll see you on another episode of You, Me, and Sicily.
Se benedica a tutti. Love you. Grazie. Ciao.
Now that's pretty impressive. She's all white out. What do you have to say about them apples? Or them lemons?
We should ski.